a dilemma. What was that? Lack of faith. But what did we learn coming out of the lesson? That even though they questioned what God was doing, did it show that they didn't believe in him? Exactly. It shows that they were still learning, trying to understand what was happening. And lesson 6, last week, bread of contention. The whole bread stories. They don't remember the bread stories.
Yeah, scribes and Pharisees again trying to question the saying was bread. The woman arguing that this way, if I'm the crumbs,
Yes, the Gentile.
they are going to eat some of it. What's the other thing? Yes.
Yes.
And unwashed hands.
Yes, very good. And Sister Chanel, you were saying 4,000. Yes. So even after he fed the 4,000, they were still a bit doubtful. All right. So we remember quite a bit.
And it's not what we eat defile us, but what come out of us.
That's right. Very good. So now we are at lesson 7, and the topic of lesson 7 is, what's the topic? Who is Jesus? Do we have anybody who recited for us the memory verse? It's simple, not true. Let us say it together. Who, come on, say it with me. Who do men say I am? Very important question, not true. And that is taken from Mark chapter 8, verse 27. And the lesson aim is to understand what it means that Jesus is the Messiah, God's Son, and how that differed from Israel's expectations. So we have a very important lesson to go through today, and I pray for your participation as we all learn together. Amen? So we will start by doing the think about it. Can I have a volunteer reader, please?
Think about it. We now come to a pivotal moment of Mark's Gospel. The reader has known from the beginning who Jesus is. Mark told us in the first line that it unfolded, we have noticed that Jesus' full identity has been veiled even from. For the first time in Mark, we hear Peter speak, "You are the Christ." For the sorry. Peter answered is as short and simple as Mark's gospel. And it's true, Jesus is the Christ, Israel's long-awaited Messiah. But what does that mean? For the remaining of this section, Mark 8:27 to 9:32, Jesus is saying, he started immediately, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. Peter, representative
Percent.
disciples, surely speak for them all. Sorry. When, in his dismay at Jesus' declaration, he rebukes Jesus. No, this can't not be, this can't be. Jesus then rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan. Peter is not yet seeing as God sees, but he will. Like all Israel at the time, Peter expected the Messiah to come with power, overthrow Israel's enemies, and restore the nation to glory. The thought that Christ would suffer and die made no sense. Like the healing of the blind man just before in verse 22-26. Peter's understanding of the Christ is blurred like the man's vision, after Jesus' first touch, it would take a second touch for Peter to see him clearly. This understanding of a dying Messiah reverses expectations. Jesus is not a conquering king, but a suffering servant. Jesus gave himself the title Son of Man as he speaks of his future suffering and glory. This captures Jesus' mission well. The Son of Man comes to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. That's good news. But servant messiahship has direct consequences for discipleship. Jesus calls his disciples to follow his servant example of self-denial. Whoever desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. This is the way of the cross. It's what Christ and following Christ mean. Peter's revelation that Jesus is the Christ is just the first revelation in this section. The second is Jesus' transfiguration, according to chapter 9, 1 to 13. When divine glory is unveiled, Peter, James, and John see Jesus in radiant majesty. They see him talking with Moses and Elijah. Peter speaks up again. Let's build tabernacles. But then a voice from heaven declares, "This is my beloved Son, hear him." It's a repeat of Jesus' baptism. It is God's validation of who Jesus is and a command of how we are to respond. The secret of Jesus' identity is disclosed among the disciples. They know what we have known since 1 verse 1. Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. But again, Jesus reminds them of what this means. His mission, his destiny, the Son of Man, must suffer many things and be treated with contempt. This long section ends with Jesus teaching his disciples again, but they still don't understand. Like the father who implores Jesus to heal his son, Jesus called them and us to faith. That Father speaks of all of us when he says, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." That is this section in a nutshell.
Amen. Thank you, sis. All right. Do you have any comments before we move on? Anything you'd like to share based on the reading?
Peter's comment, Sister Teacher, is it comes across like a revelation. Like, it's like you are with somebody for a long time, or always, and then it's like some light bulb just switch on your head. The way it was said and the way the discourse happened, it comes across to me like that when reading it, that Peter just had this burst of light.
Yes.
That allowed him to see what he did not see all along. As the writer of the quarterly said, we know that from verse 1, but Peter never had Mark chapter 1, verse 1 to read.
No.
So he came along midway the journey, or some part along the journey, called by Jesus, walked with Jesus, and then he was learning as he was going along. And as at this point when the question was asked, Peter saw that. Peter realized that all of a sudden, I'm putting in that. And maybe some of the disciples never even realized that at that point, you know. And what that means is a whole other ball game to say that you are the Christ, because that is very loaded. Because for the Jews, it meant a whole lot.
Yes.
Right? And so for that to be said at that time, it would have prompted a whole lot of discussion among the disciples. Is he really? Is he really the one? Or, I mean, then if he's the one, then we expect certain things to happen. I guess we'll discuss some of that in the lesson.
Definitely. We will definitely go on with that. But I also like the other part too, Pastor, when he said, no, this can't be, when Peter rebuked Jesus. When I first read it, I thought, but him out of order. He was quite forward and honest. Yeah, didn't hold back on what he was feeling at the time. And I like Jesus hit back right away. Get thee behind me, Satan. Was it that he was calling Peter Satan? What do you think?
I think what he was saying there is that you need to understand my mission, and to go against my mission is working alongside with what Satan would want you to be saying, to deny that he is going to be suffering. So whatever that goes against the will of God or the purpose of God, then we know that it's not from God, but it's from Satan.
That's right. But we will explore this some more. Yes, Brother Dave? We'll go through it in the question and answer section some more.
All right, so it goes back to the question that was asked last lesson about the dog. All right, the thing about it is that Jesus basically sometimes was, you're talking about Peter being straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at some point, that is how, he dealt with situations. All right, so as it relates to why we see, because of, his response, then at the point in time, because a lot of parents sometimes do it, boy, yeah, and then call the children animals or different things that they represent in the moment. You understand? You behave like whatever, and based on, the characteristics of the person at the moment. You understand? Not that you think your child is a dog, because if your child is a dog, then you would be a dog also. But based on the behavior at the time, that is what is representing. And I think it's the same situation with the disciple. You understand? So he was representing not God in this moment. You understand? And as a result, Jesus, rebuked him in that sense.
All right. Yes, Brother Tinglin?
Yes, Peter was with God still on Barnabas. And when God was in the temple preaching, and Jesus says someone going to betray him. And Peter answer says not him. But a words come again and say, when the cock crow, someone going to betray Jesus. And when you realize that Barnabas and Judas and Peter sell him out for 30 pieces of silver. And at there, so it come on until it reached down. And Jesus again, him obey and him still understand them, because him still praise them and make them overstand them own selves still. So him still, when understand, says someone going to betray him, because him did ask, who? But Peter never answer until the time when come and the cock crow and him betray Jesus right here, so.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Tinglin. He denied him, yes. All right. I get it, Brother Tinglin. All right, so we're going into our questions. Question 1. How does Mark 8, verses 27 through to chapter 9, verse 32, catch the disciples up on what we have known since Mark 1, verse 1? What is revealed about who Jesus is and how? And we have known from verse 1 in Mark that Jesus is the Son of God. So we have known that from beginning. So how do these verses now help the disciples to catch up on that? So we're looking at Mark chapter 8, reading from verse 27 to chapter 9, verse 32. We cannot go through all of that now, so I'm depending on you, my students who have studied, to direct us to some of those specific readings. All right, so I'll start. So we'll look at Mark 8, verses 27 to 30. Can we have a reader? Mark 8, 27 to 30. Sister Jeriel?
Mark 8:27 to 40.
30.
30. And Jesus went out and his disciples into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. And by the way, he asked his disciples, saying unto them, Whom do men say that I am? And they answered, John the Baptist. But some say, Elias, and others, one of the prophets. And he said unto them, But whom say he that I am? And Peter answereth and said unto him, Thou art the Christ. And he charged them that they should tell no man of him.
All right, so what is revealed about Jesus and how? What is revealed about Jesus in this reading? His identity. Yes. That he is the Christ. Yes. Any other comments? All right. Say that again. All right, so no, 30. We stopped at verse 30. So say it again on the microphone. Mm-hmm. All right, John the Baptist. Mm-hmm. All right. So who identified Jesus? Peter. It was Peter in this verse. So Peter answered and said unto him, Thou art the Christ. All right, if we look at Mark 9, verses 1 through 13, can I have another reader? Mark 9, 1 through 13.
One for Elias. For he wist not what to say, for they were sore afraid. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them. And a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And suddenly When they had looked round about, they saw no man anymore, save Jesus, only with themselves. And as they came down from the mountain, he charged them that they should that they should tell no man what things they have seen, till the Son of Man were risen from the dead. And they kept that saying with themselves, questioning one with another, what the rising from the dead should mean. And they asked him, saying, why say the scribes that Elias must first come? And he answered and told them, Elias verily cometh first, and restoreth all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and be set at naught. But I say unto you, that Elias is indeed come, and they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, as it is written of him.
All right, so what is happening here in this reading? What is revealed about Jesus? How was he revealed to them? Any bright scholar? What was revealed? How was he revealed to his disciples in this reading? Where were they? Where did they go? So they went up into a high mountain. Who did Jesus take with him? They weren't listening to the reading, you know. He took with him Peter, James, and John. And when they got up into the mountain, what happened? What do they mean by transfigured? What happened?
His features, his body, features, his raiment, whatever changed.
Yes.
Right?
So they got to see him in his glory, right? So we can describe the raiment that he changed to. Okay. All right. Anything else significant happen in that reading? What questions did they have? Elisha. Mm-hmm. Yes, Sister Abby. So why do you think he did that at that point? Yes. So yes, Brother Kevin.
When we think about it, remember that all of these prophets pointed to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So this was confirmation to them that Jesus is none of them. They were already gone, and now he was being revealed through them. So now Jesus was fully revealed in that now the Father was saying that this is my beloved Son. So he was seen as greater, even greater than Moses and Elias in this instance. So he was being revealed through the prophets, and now he's being revealed to those three that was with Christ, and in turn to even us now as we are going through the scripture.
And I think too that because they were asking so many questions about these prophets, and because they saw Elias and Moses. I think in that moment, God wanted to ensure that it was cleared up. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. So in that moment, I think he wanted to make sure that there wasn't any doubt, any confusion. Yes, Pastor Dennis? Oh.
If that's the case, why charge them not to tell anybody about him?
Why do you think he told them not to tell anybody? We've been seeing this from previous lessons. Yes, Pastor.
All right, so I have a lot I want to say. I hope I can remember and to do it short, in brief. Yeah, so Moses and Elijah were revered in Jewish history as two of the most powerful, maybe the most powerful. They fall in the same category in Jewish folklore as people like Abraham, right? They were seen as major leaders, and they loved them and spoke about them. These two men in Jewish culture were seen as persons who did not die normal death, right? God took Moses and put him to sleep.
Yeah.
Elijah went up into a whirlwind, that kind of thing. So the Israelites, these were the big men in their history. And so for Jesus to appear among them was one to show that, listen, this is not a normal prophet, a normal man, or one of the prophets. But then to be identified as my beloved son places him above Moses and Elijah. So to identify him as the Son of God, and to be seen as the Son of God means to be seen him as God. And the Jews recognize all that, and that is why Jesus was saying to them, not tell nobody, right? That's part of the reason, because that would now call on a crowd upon him, and for him to be crucified before his time. The mission was not yet accomplished. Jesus was slowly moving towards that point in time when it should have, and it should not before. And so therefore, to identify him as the Son of God, a voice from heaven saying that this is my beloved Son, then this is now going to be seen as blasphemy among those who are against him, and to claim that this man is this and that. I mean, this was going to be causing a whole lot of turmoil, right? So that was to be minimized by not repeating it until the time. Now, two other things I want to mention, I think we have not said so far, is that one, when the Bible, Peter identified him as the Christ, then that means something. I think that we need to identify what that means. Christ means the anointed one. And to be anointed means being selected for a particular task, right? So when Peter said, thou art the Christ, meaning you are the one that we were expecting. You are the one that was set apart for this deliverance of Israel. That it meant all that to his disciples, you know. So when that was said, Jesus Christ was saying to them, boy, flesh and blood will reveal that to you. Right? So this was a revelation that this was the one who should come. But they had an expectation that this anointed one, when he comes, would restore Israel to its former glory, and all these physical blessings that they were expecting would happen.
Right.
But something else was revealed about Christ here, is that he would be the suffering one. So that was also part of Revelation that we need to identify. That this is not going to be the king that will come on the big white horse and with chariots and foot runners and all these things, right? But rather, it will be a suffering servant, right? And it's through his suffering that Israel will be delivered, rather than being with a sword. That's why he said, Peter, put up your sword. And that is why he mimicked the whole riding into Jerusalem with big man running before him and horses and the announcement and the bugle. No, he rode in an ass, and people now came and they spread them little palm leaves and so. So it was you call it, I want the word, I know the term. It's a down, where were they? Watered down kind of thing. A version of what would happen to the real big kings of those times. But still, it was identifying him as that king.
All right. And I think Pastor just took us straight into question 2. And so we'll go straight into question 2. Question 2, find and discuss the references to the Son of Man and his suffering. Why does Jesus repeat it so often? How does he redefine who Messiah is? So Pastor, just give us a big portion of the answer. Yes, Brother Kevin. So find and discuss the references to the Son of Man and his suffering. That's the first part. So in Mark, in the same reading, Mark 8:27 to chapter 9:32, we're going to find the references made to the Son of Man and his suffering. Anybody identified any of them? Yes, what does it say? Mark 8:31. All right, so in this verse, he was giving them a basic description of what will happen. So the Son of Man must suffer many things. He will be rejected by the elders, the scribes, and we see that happening so far, correct? Correct, class? Yes, we see that happening already. So we're now waiting for the next part to happen, and be killed, and after 3 days, rise again. That's verse 31. Are there any other verses that you can identify?
Mark 9.
Before we get to Mark 9, there's still another in 38. In 8.
38.
Verse 38.
Sure. Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he cometh in the glory of his Father with the holy angels.
Mm-hmm. So what is this verse telling us? So, if you're ashamed of him, what do they mean by that?
Really want to associate with him, or to say you knew him, or to be associated with him.
So how is it practical now, related to our time? How can we be ashamed of Christ now? By not repenting. What else? That's right. And we're afraid to evangelize. Yes, what else? In public. So we're afraid to sing song and to worship in public because we don't want anybody to see us, yes?
Rejecting his truth. So if there is something that you learn about him and you are not in acceptance of what you have learned of him and ready to apply it to your life, that is how you can do that also.
All right, thank you. All right, and so what did he say? If we're ashamed of him, then he too will be ashamed of us. And when he comes in his glory, what will be our part? What will happen to us? Exactly. All right. So we can move now to chapter 9. Yes, Sister Jackson. Which verse are you reading? No, verse 9, verse 9. All right, so he's referring to the transfiguration story, correct? So you're not, you notice he didn't bring all the disciples with him up to the mountaintop. He selected just a few. Why do you think he did that? Okay. All right. Yes. Yes, Brother Dave.
And maybe also reverse also, you know. Maybe they wouldn't get a chance to crucify him because of, you understand, persons would believe that he is, you understand, because one of the reasons they crucified him, you know, is because they weren't sure who he was, you understand, and if they reveal who he truly is, then as Pastor mentioned before, that there would be a uproar, not necessarily to get rid of him, you know, but to install him maybe as the king that they were looking forward to all these years. So I think even though that that aspect can also be factored in, the next extreme can also be looked at.
All right, I'll take it. All right, so yes. Yeah, man. All right. So verse 12, and probably some of the disciples can't keep their mouths. So he selected the ones he knew would be quiet. Yeah. So verse 12, 9 verse 12. Any reader? 9 verse 12 and find 9.
And he answered and told them, Elias verily cometh first, and restoreth all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things and be set at naught.
All right, read verse 31 as well.
For he taught his disciples and said unto them, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and after that he is killed, he shall rise the third day.
So the second part of the question is asking, why does Jesus repeat it so often? Because he was basically telling them the same things over and over in all of these verses. Why do you think he needed to say it so often? They're not getting it. So they lack understanding. Yes?
So think about it. Remember now, Jesus just revealed to them that he is the Son of God. And then you tell me, say you're going dead. You understand? So, all right, they just thought that maybe he just go through one ears, but he was really re-emphasizing. You know, sometimes say something and person don't believe, and him just say, you know, all right. I could just think, say, it's just a mistake, or him just talking a parable. You understand? But the fact that he re-emphasized it so much, then, you understand, at some point, he wanted them to have, you understand, you have a conversation, they get it, that, guess what, I have to suffer. Because thinking about your power with the Son of God, how if he suffer? Mm-hmm. You understand? When God have been doing so much good things already, and then him figure suffer, then, you know, that is impossible. So he was re-emphasizing it, saying it to them, and trying to get it into their heads.
All right. Yes, Brother Kevin.
One of the things also is that, remember that their history was around getting somebody to save them, getting a king to save them from the bondage. They weren't slaves, but they were not kings. They were not ruling themselves. So now they were looking forward to a release from this kind of situation. And here now, the Messiah that was talked about, that they read about so much, that they even hear coming down the line, that there's a Messiah going to come to free up, make back Israel into a state, make them back into a country that they can have their own king. They can celebrate their holidays or their festivities as they used to. And now to find a Messiah coming around. And I think that was why Peter was so strong in his rebuke to Jesus, that how can you die when you have come to save us from the situation that we are in? This was what was prophesied, is that you are coming as a savior, as a king. That was what they saw in the prophecies. They did not see the suffering part of it.
Right.
And Jesus now is going to quote the scriptures and reveal to them that the suffering servant was part of the prophecies also. And I think that was why Jesus was emphasizing it, that they get it, that he was going to suffer.
Mm-hmm. So it was more of a teaching tool then, because we've seen throughout the lessons that they took a longer while to understand what was happening. Even though they were there witnessing the miracles, they still had doubts. So we have seen that. And so Jesus wanted to ensure that they get it. So he, just like you go in the classroom, you're teaching, you use repetition. So you say it multiple times so that at one point they must understand it. And also, yes, Sister Abby, you can go ahead. He wanted to change their understanding of who the Messiah should be. They had their, yes, and they had their expectations that they grew up with all their lives. They knew that way, and then here comes Jesus now, teaching something completely new, different from what they were expecting. Yes, Sister Abby.
Possibly to help them recover when he actually died. Because he said, I will suffer, I will be put to death, and I'll rise again in 3 days. And remember when the Pharisees, when they remembered that saying as well, they set guard because they said, the disciples might come and take his body. Because remember, he had said he would rise again in 3 days. So it's also to kind of help them recover. After I die, just that they might think, oh yes, he said he would suffer and he would die, but also he will rise in 3 days. So I think that is a part of it as well.
Yes. Yes, Pastor.
Yeah, just to kind of help to explain this whole concept, because for some of the younger persons, sometimes we talk about maybe think that they are understanding, but maybe they are not. So Israel had this expectation of a Messiah coming back to sit on David's throne in power and glory. That understanding was that Israel was now being ruled by the Romans, and they were not really a powerful nation at that time anymore. And they expected that the time was right. It was around about a time that they expected the Messiah would come. But yet there was Jesus claiming to be that Messiah. And he man do, coming at the pumps. Right? He man come with the horses and chariots and so on. And so they had this concept that needed to be corrected. And so I just had to be repeating this thing that, listen to me, yeah, I'm a Messiah, but I'm the suffering servant. Now, you notice that Jesus, most times when he preaching sermon that we are aware of, he went back to the book of Isaiah and he quoted from Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to preach, and so on and so forth. And what he was doing, he was basically saying to them, if you go back to Isaiah and look at the prophecies, you will realize that Isaiah prophesied that the Messiah would be a suffering servant. Isaiah 53, I mean, who is the other arm of the Lord revealed, he shall grow up as a root of a dry ground, and he will have no form or comeliness, and so on and so forth, and he shall be bruised and wounded for transgressions. So that to point out that the Son of Man must suffer was helping them to understand that it's you who had it wrong. If you look back at the scriptures, I am fulfilling what the scripture said would happen.
So how did Jesus redefine it? So we can explain further now. How was it redefined? So we see, as been said before, he's a suffering servant, correct? So that was a change. And when he came, how did he demonstrate it? What did he do? What were some of the things that he was doing? He was healing the sick, not true? Casting out demons. What else? He was feeding the hungry, teaching, all of those things. Raising the dead. So he did all of that to demonstrate to them that this is what the Messiah is all about, this Messiahship. So that is how he redefined who the Messiah is. Are we understanding so far? Sure? Okay, so we can move on to question 3. Find the places in this section where Peter speaks. What does he know, yet still not understand? Describe him. So we're looking now at Peter. And it's the same reading. What verses are there where Peter speaks? Verse 29. What does 29 say? Mark 8:29. Yes. So the other part, what does he know, yet still does not understand?
Verse 32, he rebuked Jesus in order to speak, that we know what he said when he rebuked him.
All right. So verse 32, I'll read it for you. Verse 32, and he spake that saying openly, and Peter took him and began to rebuke him. Verse 33, but when he had turned about and looked on his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, Get thee behind me, Satan, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but the things that be of men. What is this verse saying to us? What was the rebuke? That was what he said, but what does it mean? He went further to explain. For thou savorest not the things of savorest not the things that are of God, but the things that be of men. So he wasn't rebuking the person, Peter, no. He was rebuking what? Yes, Brother Kevin. Yes, Sister Elaine, and then Brother Kevin. Mm-hmm.
The things that we do that are not of him, as in, well, if I'm not on the right track, just correct me. So things are not of him that we do, like, malicing, killing, and, blaspheming, and all those things, right? That is what he really rebuked us of, right? So it's not we personal that he are rebuking, but the things that we do on a daily basis that are not not of him, or that he is not pleased of.
Yes, you're on the right track. All right. So when we savor something, what does that mean? When you savor something, think about you eating something. You enjoy it. Not true, it's satisfying. You go out and you get your food and you say, this one was done properly. Not true, tastes really good. So the things that are not of God have that taste to us. And that is what he was rebuking, right? So we are to savor the things that are of God. Yes.
I was kind of thinking of it differently, because we were saying before that Peter was thinking of when Jesus would come, or what they were taught was that when he would come in this glorious manner.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when Jesus rebuked him, I think he rebuked him rebuked him, saying that what you're thinking about was what men were saying. You're not really thinking of me as a suffering man. So you expected me to be this coming in glory person. While I'm here, I came in the form of a man. I am serving people. So he rebuked him, saying, you're thinking of and appreciating what other men were saying that are not really true.
Right.
My mission.
So he was rebuking the Israel's way, their old beliefs and customs, yes. Brother Kevin had his hand up a long time, and then Brother Dave. Yes.
Okay, so what I see him saying here is exactly what Sister Dennis just said in terms of what was happening, because Peter was about preserving life and what was happening around them at a time, and was all about preserving Israel as a nation, about bigging them up and making them an institution again, something that they can look for in terms of glory and might. But Christ was saying it's not you should not be focusing on these things, because these things are earthly. These things are what normal persons are focused on. And he was not about that. He was about a greater thing, a greater revealing thing to them. He was about to reveal something greater to them, which he was preparing them for. So Jesus was gradually preparing them for what he was about to be, what was about to be revealed to them.
All right. Yes.
All right. So, I'm going to turn it around what Kevin just said, because what was just revealed to them, you understand, it was that him says, remember, and said that he is the Messiah. And remember, as everybody have been saying, that the Messiah that they were expecting, you understand, in the line of David and all of that. You know, remember, David was a great king. And in David's time, I think Israel basically was in charge. You understand? So now they were in slavery, basically. They were, you understand? So they were basically, even though they had a king, they didn't have full rule. So they were like in bondage, in other words. All right, for want of a better word. So everything now that they were expecting was freedom, because that is what they used to. Remember, they were coming out of Egypt. You understand? And now they got their freedom, and because of disobedience, they end up back in problems. You understand? So they were looking forward for a Messiah. The prophets speak about it and everything. So when Peter get that revelation that the Messiah is here, you understand? All Peter was thinking about that, guess what? I'm in the right position. You understand? I'm in the right place. So thinking about him being in the right place now, but he was thinking like the rest of the world and saying that, guess what? Yes, he must sit on the throne of David, and I will be one of his main soldiers, or maybe a prime minister, something of the sort. You understand? So he was cementing himself in this physical world. You understand? Even though Jesus before, was trying to tell them that, guess what? This is going to come with suffering and death and everything. So basically he called Jesus one side and said, Bossy, you cannot say that at this point in time when you just give us, you understand, you just give us this hope, and then you can talk publicly that you're going to suffer and die. No, say that, man. You understand? Because yes, you might die some, but the rule is more important. Let's think about setting up your kingdom here on earth. Focus on that and stop talking about these negative things. You understand? Because you let the persons around feel downhearted and stop following. So focus on what we can do now. And then as a result, Jesus said to him, say, get thee behind me, Satan, because he was thinking about this earth now. Remember when Satan, Jesus, he said, all these things we can give unto you. If you do what? Bow down and worship me. That was what Satan said to Jesus. So Peter fell in that situation where he was saying the earthly things and the kingdom on earth, and not necessarily looking beyond that.
All right, but if we relate this verse to our time now, so that is what we were talking about earlier. We understand all of that based on our discussion thus far, but we want to relate it to us now. Us savoring the things that are not of God and rejecting the things that are of Him. So we want to also look at that. Sister Abby, Brother Deacon Reed.
And just continuing from that line of discussion, because the focus is on this temporal power and glory and all of that. That is why following those verses,
Jesus said, whosoever shall
Deny.
lose his life for my sake shall find it, and whosoever shall find his life, you know, that verse.
Yeah.
So it was saying, don't focus on this that is temporal, this temporal glory and power, but you should focus on the heavenly things of finding your life in me.
Yes. Yes, Deacon.
A question I like to ask you, the class. You think Peter went out of the rebuke Jesus?
Do you think Peter was out of order to rebuke Jesus? Do you think he was out of order? Do you see it as him being out of order? Who do I take first? Your hand was before.